and take it to another party. Why? For our kiki. This planet has seen the birth and death of so many species, but never seen a species cause its own extinction. Our kiki deserve better, and we owe it to them. Let's learn how to live as one with our aina, be better stewards for he aina, he ali'i ka aina, he kaua ng tangaka. Our kiki should be front and center, and we standing behind them to support them as they will move on.
That was our Council Vice Chair, Kelly Rollins-Fernandez. Vice Chair of the Maui County Council, and she serves as the Chair of the Economic Development and Budget Committee. She holds the council seat for the Molokai residency area. She obtained her Master of Business Administration and Doctor of Jurisprudence degrees from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. She is married to McKenna Fernandez, and they have 2 children who you just met, son Ia and daughter McKenna. My name is Lois Nanani, and I'm one of the staff members on the 8th floor of the Maui County Building. I'm privileged to work and serve in the office of Council Member and Council Pro Tem Tasha Pama. And I'm joined here by so many of the staff members who have been working practically and very busily and very dedicatedly to put on this wonderful event for everyone joining us from across the state. I'd like to now do a brief introduction of our Council Chair, Kelly King, who will also be giving some opening welcome remarks. In her 2nd term on the Maui County Council, Kelly King has also served our community as a former representative to the State Board of Education in the nonprofit sector and through her company, Pacific Biodiesel Technologies, which, as you may know, produces renewable fuel by recycling used cooking oil. Among her many accomplishments, Kelly received the 2018 Maui Sierra Club Onipa'a Award, was named to the Biofuels Digest International list of top 100 people in the Advanced Bioeconomy 2017, and earned the 2005 Blue Sky Award from the United Nations Industrial Development Organization in Shenzhen, China. As leader of the hosting council for this year's HSAC conference, Chair King has been personally involved and worked closely with our Office of Council Services in creating our dynamic and very impactful agenda. Please help me welcome Maui County Council Chair, Kelly King.
Alex Fernandez. Just bringing the students in is so important, I think. Aloha kakahiaka, everyone. Good morning and welcome to Maui and welcome to the 2019 Hawaii State Association of Counties Conference. On behalf of the Maui County Council, I'm thrilled to welcome you all to this very important conference that brings together our 4 counties annually to focus on matters of mutual interest. The theme this year, Hot Topics and Sustainability, highlights issues of global concern as well. There were so many great presentations proposed that we have about 100 speakers and presenters over the next couple of days. The downside is that you'll have to choose between excellent concurrent breakout sessions. But the good news is that we will be taping the entire conference and we'll have it online as soon as possible. Today we embark on an exploring journey to learn more about affordable housing, homelessness, climate change, sustainable agriculture and food security, multimodal transportation, disaster preparedness, and that's just to name a few of our hot topics. It is perhaps most important that our future generations understand that their community leaders are working to preserve their future. And we have included youth throughout our activities. These are trying times, and it is too easy to lose hope, become depressed, and even angry. But if you are here today, I believe you are committed to action. As President Obama once said, the best way to not be depressed is to get up and do something. Mahalo to all participants, presenters, and conference organizers for being here in the spirit of leadership and collaboration. And have a great conference, everyone. Thank you.
Mahalo, Chair Clay. It's now my privilege to be calling on the President of the Hawaii State Association of Counties. Valerie T. Poindexter was re-elected to the Hawaii County Council, where she serves as chairwoman of the Committee on Parks and Recreation. Valerie was born and raised in the district of Hamakua in Pahuilo. She's married to Ira Sunny Poindexter III, and they have 4 beautiful children, Aisha, Rochelle, Kela, and the late Yohia Huna. Do we have Valerie with us this morning? Oh, there she is. Mahalo, please come and join us and make some room. Open your remarks.
Aloha. On behalf of the Hawaii State Association of Counties Executive Committee, I'm very privileged to welcome all of you and really want to mahalo you for coming and taking the time out of your busy schedules to be with us here today to enjoy this conference. Last night we had the privilege of inviting our executive committee members up and introducing our HSAC members, which are our council members. Is Joey Manahan here? Joey? Oh, there's Joey. Can you come up for a second? Joey is currently serving as our treasurer of HSAC. Kelly, we need you back up here, and Kelly, Chair King, is our secretary. Ross Kagawa, I know he is just on his way from Hawaii and will be joining us. I think he'll get here at about lunchtime, perfect to eat. And and Ross Kagawa is our vice president. And then we have, of course, myself as president. But can we take the time to just introduce some of our HSAC members who are here from each county? And I'll start off with, we have our council member Tim Richards here. And he also serves on, he's appointed, he has a NAPO board appointment, presidential appointment, so he sits currently on the NAPO board. We have council member Karen Young. I don't see Councilmember Rebecca Villegas. Oh, she is here. Right there. I thought you were still looking at the back of your eyelids, sleeping. Thank you for being here. And we are also so privileged also to have our mayor's office represented by Rose Bautista. Where's Rose? Oh, Rose is here too. So thank you for the mayor. And we're fortunate to have our clerk, John Hendrick, and Deputy Clerk Aaron Brown. Could you please stand? Thank you. Thank you also, Martin, for being at our council level. Oh, and Matt. Is Matt here? Matt Kaneli Kleinfelder. He's also a councilor. Where's Matt? Oh, there he is. He didn't want to stand. But thank you. Thank you all for being here, and the staff, our members, our council members that who was not able to attend. Also, I'd just like to recognize, I think Representative Mark Nakashima is here. He's a representative from Hawaii Island as well, and is the vice speaker, and he sits back there. And so, thank you very much, because we couldn't do it. I've been bugging him throughout my time as president, every time something comes up, and so working with the legislators are very important in relationship building. So thank you, Mark, and the rest of the legislators for, being our partner.
Hello, everybody, and good morning. I wanted to thank everybody for being here and supporting this year's Hawaii State Association of Counties Conference, annual conference. My name is Joey Manahan. I'm the representative from Oahu, Honolulu. I've been newly elected to the board, and I'm just very grateful to have this opportunity to meet everybody here in this wonderful place at Wailea Beach Marriott on Maui. We're hosting it here this year thanks to Council Chair King, who put everything together. And so we're just very grateful, Council Chair King. I just wanted to take a moment and recognize any of the members that are here from Oahu. I know we have scheduled to be here Councilmember Ron Menor, so he must be arriving if he hasn't, if he's not here already. And then I also wanted to recognize our hardworking Office of Council Services staff, who I'm sure if you registered this morning or yesterday, you certainly would have met them. So thank you very much again for supporting our conference this year. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody in the next few days and engaging with all of you. So thank you very much. Thanks again, and look forward to a great conference. Aloha.
Our council members for Maui County Council here. I'm going to ask you, all of our council members who are here, to stand up, so we don't have to try to search through the audience. You have council member, vice chair, Tasha Kamo was here last night. She'll be here a little later. We have council member Ricky Hokama. We have council member Mike Molina right there. At some point, all of our council members, and thank you all for being here. Thank you to Office of Council Services. I'm not going to make you stand up again because probably do that at the end as well. But tremendous amount of work going into this conference, and I'm really grateful for all of you working through this while we were in full-on budget session here too. Oh, also, we're going to do a welcome a little bit later with a direct message, but I did want to recognize representatives from U.S. Representative Tulsi Gabbard's office. We have Kristen Turner and Katie McMillan here.
So on the Kauai Council, the County Council members, I know Felicia is here, but who else from Thank you, welcome. Thank you for being here. Also, I just want to make mention that as Hawaii's chapter of the National Association of Counties, we're so grateful for our NACO leadership. Ricky will introduce. I just wanted to say thank you for your leadership, President Cox, and Matt is not here yet, but he will be joining us, Matt Chase, and he's the CEO of NACO. but that partnership is so important because at the national level, we speak out for things that will definitely impact our counties. So it's so important, and we so appreciate the leadership and the support that we get from NACO. To all of you again, thank you for being here. Just build your relationships through this. Take advantage of it. Network, and share shamelessly, and just enjoy this wonderful conference. Mahalo.
For that warm welcome across the state. I do want to apologize for being such a taskmaster. I'll let Councilmember Mike Molina bring some more of the jokes, hopefully tomorrow or later when he can help us on the MC level. But I do want to try and attempt to keep us a little on track time-wise. It's really important. But next, I'd like to call up Councilmember Ricky Hokama to do a very special introduction for us. Committee of the Maui County Council, and he'll be introducing our next guest, NACO President Greg Cox. Thank you very much, Councilmember Holcomb.
Aloha, everyone. Aloha. This morning is my pleasure to introduce someone who is a very good friend of Hawaii, a very good friend of mine. He comes from a sister state called California. That during my leadership at National, it wouldn't have been made possible without the support and friendship of California people like Greg Cox, who I'm introducing. And this morning, for our NACO president, I chose to wear a coat as part of my fashion presentation. So for the president, this is how we do it here. We chose white tie and white shirt for you, Greg, today. So anyway, just quickly, Mr. Cox has been a great friend of Hawaii. We have supported him, he has supported us. And this morning, Mr. Cox is going to give, well, I should say Greg, he is our friend as well. And so Greg will be giving you some insight on what's happening to those of you like all of us who are elected officials, what's happening in Washington, D.C. and on the national front that impacts the county's 3,069 members across the United States. So I'd like to introduce my friend at this time, Greg Cox of the great county of San Diego, state of California, your NACO president.
Well, Ricky, thank you for that very generous introduction. And, you know, I have to tell you that Ricky told me right before I came over here that everybody was going to be wearing a coat and tie. I guess I just didn't understand that. So, no, I chose this just because I wanted you to know that I respect all of you. And I wanted to make it easy for you to pick out the guy from NACO. Now, having said that, this is the last time you said and the tie goes next, but I'll get into my comments. First off, let me say that I very much appreciate the invitation, and Valerie Poindexter, your president, was very generous in supporting NACO and inviting me to be at this conference here today. I also want to thank our NACO board members from Hawaii. And the first one, everybody knows Ricky. He's been a part of NACO for so long and has done such a great job in leadership roles, certainly as president, when he led the efforts to try to get some new transportation funding for counties across the United States. But Maui County Council member and NACO past President Ricky Hokama is on the board, along with your Honolulu City and County Council member Ikaika Anderson, and Hawaii County Council Chair Errol Kaneshiro, and Hawaii County Council member Herbert Richards. We thank all of them for the great leadership that they provide at NACO. They do a tremendous job of representing your state back in Washington, D.C. and all issues related to NACO. The really exciting news is that all Hawaii counties are members of NACO. To that I say mahalo. We sincerely appreciate your active involvement and participation. I know we got Tim Richards just appointed as a co-chair for a new task force that we just put together. We call it POST, which is Parks, Open Space, and Trails, because that's something that I think NACO ought to be focusing on and trying to encourage across the United States. We obviously know that we're stronger when counties work together across Hawaii, we're your state association, and when we're united when we come to Washington, D.C. to deal with issues and seize opportunities and certainly deal with obstacles that are periodically thrown in front of us. Just as your Hawaii Association advocates for counties in Honolulu, the National Association of Counties advocates for counties nationwide in Washington, D.C. Decisions in Washington, D.C. may seem like they're kind of unrelated to our work at the county level, but federal policies often have direct, long-lasting, and costly impacts on county government. Your membership dues ensure that your county has a sustained and a respected presence in the halls of Congress, the White House, and with various federal agencies. I know that NACO Executive Director Matt Chase is going to be providing an update a little bit later this morning, but I wanted to highlight just a few of the federal policy victories we've achieved this year with the help of counties across Hawaii and across the nation. First, the 5-year Farm Bill includes investments in rural and underserved communities. The federal opioid legislation includes tools for us to fight substance abuse at the local level. We secured more than $135 billion in federal aid for more than a quarter of the nation's counties recovering from major disasters. If you can believe that, this past year, over 25% of all counties across the United States had federally declared disasters. And the Disaster Recovery Reform Act improves FEMA's programs for local governments and prohibits FEMA from clawing back aid after disasters. Another victory, the federal FAA reauthorization includes $3.5 billion through 2023 for airports, development, and planning. It also acknowledges NACO's call for greater local government involvement in the development and implementation of policy regarding unmanned aerial systems or drones. Another achievement was that we significantly saw increases in funding for housing and community development, including CDBG, Home and Economic Development Administration grants. And finally, the Water Infrastructure Act authorizes dozens of projects and requires the Army Corps of Engineers to consult with state and local governments on annual budget plans, potential projects, and pending guidance documents. And after many years of federal overreach, the administration recently released a revised definition of waters in the United States. We're working with the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers to make sure that the new definition achieves counties' environmental goals and is practical at the local level. This is just an example of how NACO works to stave off unfunded federal mandates and preemption of local decision-making authority. To complement our federal policy efforts, I'm pleased to share with you a few details about my presidential initiative, which is called Connecting the Unconnected. It informs and illustrates how counties help all of our residents, including our most vulnerable, forge pathways to live well and thrive. The initiative demonstrates how counties deliver people-centered services, maximizes government efficiency, and ensures responsible stewardship of taxpayer dollars in 3 key areas. First, through technology. NACO is showcasing best-in-class technology that helps counties deliver services. And I might just take a moment to talk about a system we have in San Diego. We have a 211 call center that we implemented in 2005. And we use that to provide normal health and human services information. Well, we realized that during disasters, because we had some very bad fires in 2003, that we can really use it much more effectively during disasters as a non-emergency number for people to call during disasters. In 2007, 2 years after we started, we have another round of horrific fires, and we handled over 160,000 calls in 5 days. That was from people asking for directions on when they could go back to their home, whether they had boiled water, whether roads were open back up. And the year before, they did 140,000 calls in the entire year. So we realized that using something like 211, which I'm hoping we can get on a nationwide basis, can really do a lot to help people during the normal times when they may, need assistance with food or utility bills. But during disasters, it's absolutely indispensable based on our experiences. And so we've been working very diligently to try to expand that system across the United States. I'm very proud of the fact that just about a month ago, the state of South Dakota passed a bill that was signed by the governor to extend 211 call systems for all 66 counties in the state of South Dakota. Secondly, we're doing this through data. NACO is demonstrating the importance of data-driven decision-making and improving resource allocation. And then thirdly, under the guise of connecting the unconnected, financing is the third element. We're illustrating the importance of public-private partnerships to ensure sustainable funding and coordination of services. One of NACO's new initiatives that relates to connecting the unconnected is the Tested app to help us improve broadband connectivity. In rural areas nationwide, less than 70% of residents have access to high-speed internet. In some rural areas, far fewer have access. NACO supports the deployment and availability of emerging technologies such as small cell 5G to all areas of the nation and to ensure even economic and educational opportunities for all. Connectivity data provided to the Federal Communications Commission is often inaccurate and inflated, leaving many rural counties and communities overlooked and disconnected. That's why NACO and our partners have created the Tested app. This free mobile app is designed to identify areas with low or no connectivity to help NACO use data to make the case for federal investments in broadband infrastructure. It's available on iOS and Android and collects no personally related identifying data. And we hope that you'll download the app today and help us spread the word about identifying gaps in broadband coverage, how critical it is to make substantive changes to the process for reporting broadband service. You can learn more about the Tested app at naco.org/tested. That's naco.org/tested, and you can get the app on your phone right away. It's very easy to use. Before I leave, I wanted to encourage you to register for our 2019 annual conference in Clark County. Now, some of you may wonder where Clark County is. We don't like to use the word Las Vegas. So we're saying this in Clark County because technically it is in Clark County. Actually, the city of Las Vegas is directly across the street from the Paris Valleys Hotel, where we're going to be having the annual conference. So without any equivocation, you can say that you're going to Clark County. That's going to be our annual conference on July 12th to the 15th. This will be the largest meeting of county elected officials and staff in the country. We elect our NACO second vice president, set our policy agenda for the year ahead, and exchange proven practices to improve residents' lives and hone our leadership skills for the future. You can see the conference schedule and register today at naco.org/annual. Make it fairly easy, I guess. In closing, I want to emphasize that NACO is your national association. You are NACO. We are only as strong as your participation, and we are very grateful to those who participate. And if you don't participate, we invite you to get involved in our initiatives, our federal policy advocacy, our committees, and our task force, and our program.
Thank you, Supervisor Cox. And no, I'm not going to take that. Just kept going with it. Guys, just fine. Thank you also for reminding us that we're not just a tiny dot in the middle of the Pacific. We are really interconnected with this national, very proactive organization. And it's interesting because we have this over $800 million budget, and Supervisor Cox oversees regional government of about $6.3 billion with 17,500 employees. Yet we share a lot of the similar issues that we face as government. Right? It is now our honor to call up someone from Maui's neighbor island. You know, we're always the neighbor island to Oahu, right? But today, Oahu is our neighbor island. Mufi Hanneman is the president and CEO of the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association. We call it HTLA. The state's largest private sector tourism organization, where he's demonstrated extraordinary leadership in advocating and promoting the state's #1 industry. That's why he's going to speak on marketing versus management. Mufi Hanneman was the mayor of the city and county of Honolulu, taking office in 2005 and was re-elected to a second term. As mayor, Mufi and his team amassed a remarkable record of accomplishment in achieving an 80% approval rating before he left office. He was born in Honolulu and was an outstanding scholar, athlete, and honors graduate of Yale School and Harvard University. Following his graduation, he was a Fulbright Scholar in New Zealand before returning home to teach history and coach varsity basketball. I wonder why that could be. It's the first time I've told it to you. He has been a special assistant to Governor George Ariyoshi, a state director in the cabinet of Governor John Waihee, and an executive with Agribusiness C. Brewer and Company. Mufi was selected as a White House Fellow in the Reagan administration to former Vice President George H.W. Bush, and also served in the Carter, Clinton, and George W. Bush administrations. In addition to his HLTA responsibilities, Mufi is a much sought-after public speaker and is involved in numerous community activities. He is the founder of the nonprofit Pacific Century Fellows, modeled after the White House Fellows, which mentors future generations of local leaders in Hawaii and the Pacific. He also pens a regular column in Midweek and hosts popular radio shows on Cool Gold 107.9 and KNDI 1270 AM. Maybe he'll sing for us later too. In addition, Mufi awards thousands of dollars in scholarships each year to deserving local high school students throughout the state. Please help me welcome Mr. Mufi Hanneman.
Good morning, everyone. Aloha. Aloha. You know, Mr. Cox, I'm reminded of when I was with the U.S. Conference of Mayors and chairing the tourism committee. We were poised to host a major convention here in Hawaii. And the mayor of Detroit at the time got up and said, "Oh, nobody's going to go because you can't come up with a good excuse why you're going to Hawaii for a major convention." And I rebutted it, and I said, you know, I don't hear folks on the mainland complain when we travel to Las Vegas, when we go to Disneyland, when we go to New York. So share some love and come to Hawaii. So thank you very much for those kind comments this morning, because this is indeed an opportunity for us to demonstrate that we can bring together a conference here of major proportions that leads to what you're going to do in Clark County. I want to commend all the council members that are here for taking the time to be a part of NACO. I think it's really important. Sometimes you feel that, well, you know, I can't go to one of the neighbor islands, so I can't travel to the mainland to engage in a conference. But organizations such as NACO, organizations such as the U.S. Conference of Mayors, really allows you to network, as Chair Poindexter was saying, and also I think gives you an opportunity to learn best practices. The things that are happening that you can take back, you can emulate, or things that are not working as well. So today, I have been asked by Chair King to come here and talk about tourism from the perspective of managing and marketing. I can tell you, I want to come away with this meeting with a better understanding of what we're all about. Because sometimes when you look at tourism, especially from the perspective of Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association, Hawaii Tourism Authority, the various visitor bureau chapters throughout the counties. There's a tendency to think that we're all about marketing. And all we want to do is bring as many people here so that we can fill the coffers and stimulate the economy. Today I hope to demonstrate that there's a very different approach that we've been taking. And some of the things that I take with me to this job today is a result of the years that I spent in county government. I was a two-term council member, two-term mayor, and I can tell you this, having worked at the federal, state, and county level, I've always came away with a great appreciation of county government. And I'll tell you why. Because you deal with issues that are near and dear to people's hearts. I call them the 3 Ps sometimes. Police, parks, and potholes. And everybody has an opinion of that. And the other thing too with county members, that there's not as many of you say at the state level. State level, there's 51 House members, there's 25 state senators. So even if you don't represent a particular district or you don't reside there, chances are people know who you are. And so your votes sometimes get magnified because there's 9 of you voting, it takes 5 to pass, and so forth and the like. So that instant gratification, if you will, being able to do something that is near and dear to people's hearts, I think often leads to you to continue to say, you know what, this is a great job, and I want to continue to do that. So I've always enjoyed my service at the county level, and a lot of the things I'm going to share with you today is based on a county perspective. So let's look at tourism. You know, we've been in the news a lot, the fact that we've had 7 record years of tourism growth. And so this kind of exacerbates that feeling that, you know, we're just promoting tourism. But if you look at the trends that are happening, you can see now there's going to be a leveling off from 2019 on. Okay, not as many tourists are going to continue to come here. That's just the way these things are cyclical. We've had an amazing ride. We've been riding the wild surf of tourism that's brought a lot of visitors here for a lot of reasons. You also will know, maybe even a more telling graph, because all of you deal with budgets, visitor expenditures are going down. Okay, look at 2019 and beyond. Okay, since middle of last year, visitor spending every month is starting to decline. So visitor arrivals may still rise in some islands and the like, but visitor spending is going down. We'll get into that, and you can almost surmise why that is happening. Next. So, our forefathers, if you will, when they made the transition from a plantation economy to a tourism economy back in the 60s, I don't think they ever envisioned that one day we would be hitting 10 million visitors and then some. Look at it in 1965, only 600,000 visitors. And where we are now. Okay, you can say, well, that's just the way of the world, if you will. But at the same time, I don't think anybody was talking about it back then. It was all about we needed to transition from a plantation economy and find something else to ensure economic growth and create jobs. So, here are the numbers, basically. Over 200,000 jobs statewide, over $17 billion that are spent by visitors, and the state tax revenues are $2.08 billion. Now, this phenomenon, of course, is not just isolated to Hawaii. Internationally, we're seeing also tremendous visitor industry growth. In fact, they're predicting by the year 2030, 1.8 billion people will be traveling, and the rate of growth is expected to be 3 to 4%. Now, there's some things that happen, of course, you know, that could change that flow, if you will. Everybody's looking to see whether, in fact, the Chinese government will continue to insist that Chinese visitors not visit America, or man-made or natural disasters could impact these numbers. It's happened before with us. So, tourism has become a victim of its own success. refers to now is over-tourism. I can tell you from an industry standpoint, we don't like that term. And I'll tell you why. And that goes to the heart of my message today. Because it's not about just marketing tourism. It's all about managing tourism. And if you manage tourism, you're going to have a lot more positive results if you go down that path. So here are some of the measures that are being bandied about worldwide. You can see everything from restricting flights, imposing a visitor minimum daily expenditure, increasing visitor fees, blah, 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 blah. In the Philippines, the president of the Philippines actually shut down Boracay Island for 6 months. He basically said, no more visitors, no more locals are to use Boracay. We need to basically get it back on track. There's been an undue hardship on the environment and the like. Over in Venice, Italy, they actually had a fee that they would extract from people that wanted to sit on the Rinaldo Bridge in Venice. And then they also wanted them to extend that to other parts of the city. In any public space, they wanted to fine people up to $590 for taking a seat. Okay? So these are, in our opinion, very draconian measures that we don't want to go down that path, which is why we're trying to be proactive and get in front of the problem. So where are we in Hawaii? I'm going to give you and share with you 5 aspects of a successful tourism industry that to me is applicable to any place in the world. And I first fashioned this when I was the State Director of the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism for Governor John Waihee in the early 90s. And I still believe this is still applicable today. Number 1, marketing. Okay? We didn't have a dedicated source of marketing back in the early 90s. We do have one today. That's the Transient Accommodations Tax. That was originally supposed to go for tourism-related purposes. That time, marketing, convention center, and, this is something for all of you, assistance to the counties. However, the largest recipient now of this Transit Accommodations Tax is the general fund. Okay, that's where the lion's share of the $565 million is going. It's something that is irreversible, I believe, because of the fact that tourism is always looked upon to continue to fund everything under the sun. So you can argue about that both ways, if you will, but that's a trend I believe is irreversible, and so we have to do more with less, but to do better with what we have. Okay. Second thing, airlift capacity. Okay. You can do all the marketing in the world, but if you don't have a sufficient lift to bring people here when they want to travel, can afford to travel, and infrastructure facilities to make them feel welcome and not have to say, oh my goodness, everything is great about Hawaii until you go to the airport. Either when you depart or you arrive. So I want to give props to Maui and your Maui state legislators for what you've done here. It's a state-of-the-art facility that you have here for the rental car, something that should be emulated throughout the state, especially on Oahu. And that being the case, this is also very important. Next. Public safety. Okay, at the end of the day, if people don't feel safe and secure about coming to Maui, Molokai, Lanai, Hawaii Island, Kauai, Oahu, they will not come. When I was a director of DBED, I remember the Japanese Consul General very uncharacteristically said in very blunt terms, because we had a rash of crime incidents against Japanese tourists. He says, if we don't do something to mitigate that, they will not come. So at that time, the council basically got the industry together, HPD, and we took some important steps to address that, which are still in place today, by creating a Waikiki Business Improvement District for one, to ensure that we were staying on top of infrastructure needs and also creating an ambassadors of Aloha program in Waikiki. And nurture and sharing the Aloha spirit. This is something we too often take for granted. But this is what separates us. And I say this to folks. The trend in the industry, and I'll be blunt about it, is that you see it in every aspect of sales throughout the United States. It's automation. Okay? So if the industry may be forced to do that, hopefully it'll never happen here, because to me it'd be terrible if it occurs in mass in the visitor industry. Why? Because it's all about the Aloha spirit. Can you imagine a robot giving you a leg instead of a person giving you a leg with a hug, a couple of Hawaiian words in here, and maybe even singing a song to you as they give you a leg? You know, all those things are very important. So we cannot neglect this aspect of the culture, which is touching base with our kupuna, making sure that it's a part of everything that we do throughout the islands. Here's my last point. We need to protect our natural resources, maintain our infrastructure, and upgrade our attractions. Okay? So this one gets a little tricky at times because now you're talking money. Okay? That either has to come from government, from the industry, and then oftentimes it talks about fees or taxes that need to be raised. So I'm going to give you 4 examples that I had to deal with as a mayor and a council member that I think could be of relevance to you. 4 very thorny issues in Honolulu that involved making sure that I could manage tourism better then, or I should say we could manage tourism better then, and some of these things that happened today. But let's go to Hanama Bay. Okay, when I was on the city council, we had a very popular mayor who wanted to extract a fee for people going down to the bay. Now, sounds like a good plan. However, I took umbrage with that because he wanted to take the fee and put it into the general fund. Okay? So, charging people to go to Hanama Bay, we put it in the general fund so it could be used for other parts and the like in the city of County of Honolulu. I stood up, I challenged that, and I said, if we're going to charge a fee, it needs to go back to the bay so that we can do things that are long overdue. An educational program to ensure that everybody knows what is expected of them when they go to the bay. 2, we need an educational center. We have to make sure also that those funds have to be used to preserve the bay, education-wise. We also need to look at maybe shutting the bay down once a week, which we've done. And most importantly, make sure that anything that is extracted from the bay goes to the Hanama Bay Reserve Fund. Now here's the other thing that was very important. I didn't want only the tourists to pay. So what did I come up with? I came up with a plan to say, cannot charge local people to use the beach. Okay, that's off the table. However, what about a parking fee that everybody pays? So if you want to park at the bay, we now call it a nature preserve. Locals and tourists pay the same rate. So I felt that got us past the unfairness argument, if you will, or that we're just picking on tourists again to finance the things we need to do. So we were able to override what that mayor wanted to do at that time. And we got unanimous council support to move on this. Hanama Bay Nature Preserve. Second. You guys remember this one? 48 million gallons of raw sewage. I was campaigning for mayor on the theme that I wanted to do the need to have rather than the nice to have. And that we were spending too much time on above ground projects as opposed to going underneath. Why? Because it's stinky, it's smelly, gets in the way, and everybody said I was an alarmist for doing that, just trying to grab the headlights. Well, here's a lesson for all of you. Be careful for what you ask for because it may happen to you. Under my watch, I encountered a major sewage spill. Okay? That was not just as a result of the deteriorating infrastructure, but because of the fact that we had not looked at some of the things that were happening in and around the Hawaii Canal. And then, more importantly, we had 48 days of non-stop rain. Non-stop rain. It was just pummeling Waikiki, Hawaii. I remember point in time when we had this sewer spill, I'm laughing about it now, I wasn't laughing then. And I said to our engineers, so what are my options? He said, well, we can try like heck to try to find the hole and patch it up as soon as we can. But there's no guarantee, Mr. Mayor, because this thing is really coming down hard. And so I said, what's my other option? Well, we can dump it into the alleyway. Dump it into the alleyway. Are you nuts? How many gallons of sewage we talking about? Maybe a couple million. Couple million. And then I said, well, if I didn't do that, what would happen? Well, it would overflow into the streets. It would overflow into the lobbies, restaurants, residents would be affected, tourists would be affected, and the national headlines would really come out and say, Hawaii is a polluted place, do not go there. So I said, give me a minute, maybe it took me 30 seconds. I walked one way, came back and says, do it, and then tell me when it's over. Well, they told me when it's over, it was 48 million gallons. Okay? But the good thing is that I had the proactive sense to raise the sewer fees my first year in office. Now, I only got elected by a razor-thin margin, 1,000 votes. And here I was talking about raising taxes, raising fees. Once again, I got eviscerated, I got criticized. What are you doing? You're going to be a one-termer. Well, it was the right thing to do because Honolulu was also facing a lawsuit by the EPA. Decade-long lawsuit that was just driving the costs up. And we were not adhering to many things of that consent decree. So I said, you know what, I'm going to put it in all one package and deal with it. So we raised the sewer fees and I had a council that went along with me. And my pledge was this, and I'll make this real clear to all of you. That sewer fund will never be raided under my watch. Because that's what was happening. I'm sorry, but administrators like to do that at federal, state, county level. They say they're going to spend money here, but when they got to balance their budget, somehow they slip it over to another aspect of it. That's not good, because you're not being transparent, you're not being honest with the people in terms of how those monies are being spent. So, not only we did that, but flew to San Francisco, worked really hard, and we settled that decades-long lawsuit that was brought to us by the EPA and the Sierra Club. Settled it. Nobody thought we could do it. But I used this mantra. Every crisis presents an opportunity to capitalize and do something better. So I went to the EPA and I said, you know what? Forget about all this other stuff you want to do. Okay, we've got a major crisis here. Let's come to some kind of reasonable settlement so that we can afford to fix the problem in Waikiki, put us on a path to upgrade our infrastructure throughout Oahu, and then we all go home happy. So that's what happened. And as I said, this is a major aspect of making sure that if you're going to ask to increase a fee or a tax, make sure it goes back to that particular project that you said it was needed for. Next. Here's another one, White Man Valley. Here's another one for you. I came onto the city as mayor and I inherited an issue whereby the landowner was given development rights to White Man Valley. Okay? And it's going to take this pristine valley and put lifestyles of the Richard Finks all over the valley. Okay? So, we tried to figure out whether we could come up with a settlement to have him basically go away because he was not from here, although he had major landowning interests here. So we got together with OHA, with the Trust for Public Lands, with the state, tried to pool our monies together. It was still not enough. So I had two more cards to play. One was I approached the military. And I said, can you put some money into this? Because you need White Man Valley as a buffer road on the top as you're doing your military exercises. Okay, maybe you can contribute to the maintenance of that now. Okay, so they basically came in. Went back to the landowner, he continued to say no. So, many of you don't know this, but I think you all think of me as a Polynesian man. Hanuman is German. Okay, not German. German, English, Samoan to be exact. And I took German at Iolani School. Couldn't remember the German that I took back then, but I said to myself, I gotta figure out a way, local style, to get there. So I went back and actually pulled out some of my German books that I remember I kept from my days at Illinois. And I said to my court counsel, I said, get a hold of the attorney for Mr. Wolford. I want to see him. Oh, Mayor, he's taking a stance. He says he's going to do what he's going to do. He says, you know, that he has every right. So let me just take a chance. So I asked for the meeting. I walk in. He, of course, had his back to me, you know, this way. And I was coming in, would turn around, and I said, Entschuldigen Sie bitte. Ist hier noch mal Platz frei? Du bist in Honolulu. Turn around. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Ah, das war kein Deutsch. Talked about German, yeah, honeymoon, German, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? We had a date. Okay? So, that just to show you, okay, I've simplified it, but nothing is impossible.
Right.
If it's worth it, put your creative mind and juices to it and make it happen. Because today, OHA is doing a wonderful job of preserving that valley for generations to come, devoid of development. We're also negotiating other agreements with other landowners in and around that area to keep that valley pristine, natural. So it's something that I think you may have to dig into your arsenal of tricks and magic artistry to be able to do something. Next. Okay, that's it. Hypostasis. Every mayor has grappled with this because the view atop Haiku Stairs is phenomenal. And with my time, there was a great push for me to open up the stairs and make it possible for not just locals, but visitors to go up Haiku Stairs. And it was difficult to push back on it because we had groups that were organized. And did a lot of things there. They said, hey, look, we can do it if you put this in and so forth and so forth. So the money wasn't the issue. This is what held me back. This is an important aspect. Public safety. The fire chief at that time made it very clear to me, Mr. Mayor, I want to say something to you. We are going to risk and endanger the lives of our firefighters if someone gets into some kind of accident, incident there. And we could see a loss of life or two of someone trying to save it. I said, then my decision is easy. We're not going to open it up. And so, once again, took a lot of hits on that, but it was the right thing to do. And I wanted to share that with you. Keep in mind, sometimes you have to do what is right instead of what is popular. You know, and I think public officials always get torn about that because you're always looking at your approval rating, you're looking at poll results, you're looking at letters to the editor, you're looking at the blogs, and you go, oh my goodness, everybody's pounding on me, I can't do that. If it's the right thing to do, stick to your principles. Sometimes you pay a price for it. Short term, long term, you'll appreciate it. Next. Okay, so challenges to make to managing tourism. Tourism doesn't do enough to give back to the community. It's all about profits. Some perception. There's no sincere commitment to the long-term future for Hawaii because so many hotel owners are multinational corporations, offshore companies, hedge fund investors. Third, there are too many tourists who are endangering our resources and jeopardizing the future of our local community. And fourth, 7 straight years of record growth translates to record profits. So let me approach this issue in this fashion. I'm going to talk about some issues that we are working on right now that demonstrates how we are trying to do our best to manage tourism. Because these are issues that affect the community, not just the tourism industry. So we need to be proactive in determining how it would be good for Hawaii tourism, that is, because there's been no significant alternative in providing the greatest number of jobs. Okay, I keep getting that all the time. Slow down on tourism. I say to them, okay, this has always been my mantra. If not tourism, then please suggest to me what's the alternative to employ over 200,000 people. Tourism is an industry that provides good paying jobs. Let me just be clear. Housekeepers can make up to $25 to $27 an hour. Insurance, health benefits, and the like. That's more than the minimum wage that the state legislature will not know what we need to do to keep it clean and green and white. And our industry has always been quick to jump on that, to see how we can employ that in the practices that we have, not just in the hotel hotels, but in the attractions and the like. Thirdly, tremendous emphasis on the Hawaiian culture. It's amazing how that has changed significantly through the years. Thanks again to listening to the community that doesn't want a Disneyland replica of what's going on here. You want the real deal. And so when we're not doing enough of that area, I always encourage the community to say, what do we need to do? What are we missing from this? I remember when I was negotiating for Aulani, I should say Disneyland, to put a resort on the wall. I flew up to California to meet with Disney because I'm the biggest Disney fan in the world. I thought, hey, maybe this would be the first step to get to Disneyland. Well, they just restricted it to the resort. And I said to them, you can't just come to Hawaii and just pass the Disneyland name and just say, you know, we're a good product and we're going to have lots of people that are going to come and good work. I said, you've got to make sure that the Hawaiian culture is about everything that you do and employ people along the Waianae Coast. To their credit and to the owner of Hawaii, they have maintained it. So Aulani is a wonderful resort experience, really trying to do their best to maintain and preserve the Hawaiian culture. And the last thing about tourism is that it's a good complementary industry. Think about agriculture. Okay, we face a declining situation with agriculture, but tremendous emphasis on buy local, made local products, and they serve local food, local seafood. You know, technology. We just recently completed our trade show, first ever with the Hawaii Restaurant Association and the Star Advertising. Amazing the technology that is coming through the industry and to business in general that we are going to be adapting to. The apps, making it easier for people to do business with the industry. So let me talk about 3 issues. Here's the 500-pound gorilla: illegal transient vacation rentals. You notice I said illegal. And I want to make the position of the industry clear from the perspective of HLTA and the Hawaii Tourism Authority. We are not against short-term rentals. We recognize that it's an option for people that want to either utilize that or they want to rent that out. However, our position is clear. We want them to exist in areas where they are legal. Where they are legal. We don't want them proliferating throughout the community because it exacerbates the other problem. It's not about hotels versus transient vacation rentals. It's transient vacation rentals versus communities. Local people, if they try to rent from a TVR, they have to pay 2.5 to 3.5 times more. Look at these stats here. 23,000 alternative accommodations in Hawaii, 90% are entire home rentals. Entire home. I'm not talking about B&Bs. We are okay with B&Bs. Okay? Bed and breakfasts. We are okay with that. But it's these whole home rentals, and look at the ownership by non-residents. 53% owned by non-residents. So, we've been trying to get the state to wrap its arms around this issue for the last 3-4 years. And it's always been coming down to the state House has one version, the state Senate has a second version, another version, and then sort of been deadlocked, and also in terms of ascertaining where the governor is on this issue. They have a bill now that they've agreed upon, that's before the governor, 1292. And it's poised to go forward. But most importantly, what we in the industry have done, because the state has been having difficulty wrapping its arms around this, because when I talk to some state folks, they always say, well, why should we try to rectify this issue when at the end of the day, it's the counties that enforce. It's the county planning department that has to step up their game. So you know what? We said, let's go to the counties. And to the credit of every county, mahalo for stepping up. Because we are sending that message to the state. The counties are getting their act together. They're not going to wait for overarching legislation from the state. They're moving to it. Maui. Okay, here on Maui, you have a situation where, but I really like what you folks did this past legislative election year, where your voters voted to approve a measure that would increase fines for illegal transit vacation rentals from $1,000 to $20,000 to $10,000 a day after. Okay, the voters approved that. So now it's up now for the county council and the mayor. My understanding is to put together the rules and regs so you can start implementing this. You may also need to look at additional legislation to ensure the transparency, the accountability, fairness that we talked about. I like the fact that you have a separate property tax classification. I like that. That's important because they should be paying more, those who are in the short-term rental business. Kauai. They actually pioneered this separate tax classification, Kauai has, for many years. And Mayor Kawakami is not here, but he is the most outspoken mayor on this issue. I give him big props. He's speaking out about it. He's saying, I don't want them in my community if they are illegal. They also have a bill that's going through the council that calls for stronger rules to close the loophole for illegal operators who claim ignorance of violation notices and would place a lien on homes if those violations aren't addressed within time limits. Okay? They actually were the first county to get everybody together on the same page. The mayor, the county council, planning commission, and then last year they passed legislation that dealt in some of these areas that I talked about concern. Now the devil's in the details, implementing the rules and regs. It's not the perfect bill, but I give them props for moving forward and trying to address that. Last but not least is Oahu. I see Councilmember Manahan here, and I want to credit him and Councilmember Mendoza because they really have put their arms around this issue and are moving it forward. Now, can you imagine that this is no direct criticism of my former managing director, Mayor Paul, but he couldn't get his initiative past his own appointed planning commission on 2 occasions. They rejected it. That's unheard of. Your own planning commission rejects your initiative. Okay? So it came out of the planning commission kind of limping to the council. They took their time. They put their arms around it. They heard both sides of it. And they put measures out there that are going to do everything that we ask for. Transparency, enforcement, registration. And I like this. If you are an operator of a TVU, you have to register with the Department of Planning and Permitting. You have to register. If you don't register, nada. Okay? We like the version that also calls for limited expansion. And that's basically the B&Bs, bed and breakfasts. We're saying to those that are in the TVU business, you need to exist where you are needed. We're okay with those that want to be grandfathered in. We're okay with it. Okay? But you need to exist with it. Guess where they're legal? In the resort areas. So this debunks the myth that, oh, hotel industry just doesn't want them because they don't like the competition. No, compete with us where you're supposed to compete. Not in the communities and neighborhoods where people cannot afford to live in those areas there. Joy, did I miss anything on your bill? Okay. All right, well, props. And so we got one more vote coming up on July 5th. One more vote. See, I kind of said that publicly, kind of putting the heat on my friend over there, Joe, but they've done a good job. So there's one more vote. If they make that happen, that's going to be the most comprehensive county legislation here in the state of Hawaii with respect to TVRs. So, no more delay, no more procrastination, time for action is now. Our communities are hurting. Okay? Not the industry per se, it's the communities. Okay, next issue. Let's talk about homelessness. Probably the most vexing, troubling issue of our time. Everywhere homelessness exists. This is what our industry has done. Over $2.5 million we have raised over the past 5 years. It has gone to every county to nonprofit groups. We even took the proactive stance where I went to lobby the legislature to give us $1 million in matching funds. So in addition to the 2.5, 1 million of that, because of the support of the legislature and Governor Ige, we are going to be able to help over 100 nonprofit groups throughout the state of Hawaii with another $1 million to help them in their mission to combat this problem. So once again, if we were just all about homelessness in resort areas, why would we be putting this kind of money into this issue? We recognize that it's tearing at our social fabric. We recognize we have to do proactive measures to put the homeless in a better place. And certainly it's areas that exist in Hawaii. We're getting ready to announce a major initiative with the Honolulu Police Department, who's doing a thing in Honolulu where they're actually taking the homeless out of the parks and then taking them to an area in Chinatown where they'll be able to get help immediately, whether it's a job, whether it's medical rehab, whatever they need, they're going to do that, and we're getting ready to announce a major contribution for their efforts in that regard. Next. So, protecting our natural resources, ensuring public safety, and investing in infrastructure. Improvement districts. I don't know how many of you are looking at that from the county island perspective, but it has worked in Waikiki because this really helps us in the area of the Waikiki Business Improvement District to do public improvements on the sidewalks as well as public improvements along the shoreline of the Waikiki Beach Improvement District. Long-term resilience of health of Waikiki Beach. Next. Next. Okay, visitor public safety, I've talked about that. I think every county should do this. Get your county officials together, because this sends a positive message to the community, as well as those in the private sector, that you're doing everything to ensure that your area is a safe place. Next. And you need to, we'll continue to invest in our tourism infrastructure. Okay, that's not going to go away, despite the fact that you're opposed to raising property taxes on hotels in LA. They're going to continue to invest in the tourism infrastructure. That's not going to go away, because we recognize the visit industry plan is important. Next. Okay, I'm going to spend a couple minutes on this one here. The reason why you can take what I'm saying home to the bank is we've got a new leader at the Hawaii Tourism Authority that recognizes the importance of managing and not just marketing, and I'm talking about Chris Taylor. He comes from the industry, and together we are collaborating in ways we've never seen before, because it's not just about marketing, it's about managing. 4 quick things. The ramps. First time ever, we're going to make sure that high schools from the neighbor islands are flown to Honolulu and participate in the clinic. Never happened before. Lahainaluna from Maui, Hilo from the Big Island, Kapa'a from Kauai are coming. And we're going to have that next. Latte Golf Chapel. This is going to be the mantra that we're going to use, or I should say, the mandate, the template we're going to use with all the golf tournaments. They have to give back to the community and help the schools. Next. Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. This is a good one. High school entrepreneurship program. We went in there and I said, how come it's just Oahu schools? Where are the neighbor island schools? And we are flying in neighbor island schools to participate in this, so when they do their culinary programs, the students are not just going to be creative, but they know how to do the business aspect of it. Next. Ho'olina Scholarship. This is what is really worth repeating. $500,000, thanks to Chris Tatum, has been redirected from marketing to put into this education fund, because we were sensitive to concerns of where are our local managers, where are our GMs that come from the schools there. So this year we gave out 10 $48,000 scholarships to 10 public high school students. The commitment: go to travel industry management school in Hawaii. We're going to have courses in the Hawaiian culture in the summer. We're going to provide internship programs for you, and you're going to do community service. Next. Okay, so here's the thing that I wanted to get on. Maui and Kauai have both done tourism strategic plans. Okay, really now trying to take that from the talking stage and start to implement that. Kudos to both of you for embarking on that. That's really important. These are some of the things you're talking about. Next. Next. Maui's, all good starts. Okay. Oahu is doing a resiliency strategy. They're trying to tackle global warming. Okay, and sea level rise. Good. But I also want them to make sure that we do an Alawite flood control mitigation plan. Okay? Federal government has basically appropriated millions of dollars waiting for the county and state to come together with the community. Next. Conclusion. So, tourism is indeed the key for a sustainable economy and quality of life in Hawaii. Despite the efforts to diversify the economy, tourism is our core competence. It's what we do best. No other place has the monopoly that we have with respect to tourism and doing it right. We can't be shy about it. We need to put it out there unless there is an alternative to tourism. Because we need to diversify, all these things about let's diversify beyond tourism. My feeling is we need to diversify within tourism. Sports tourism, health tourism, edutourism, environmental tourism, health tourism. Create the image in the aura that Hawaii is a great place to vacation, but also to learn, to invest, to participate, and create good jobs for a sustainable tourism. So, I'll close with this. If we do that, then we can use tourism as an opportunity to strengthen our appeal and advantages in health, education, sports, recreation, arts and culture, agriculture, culinary, which will help us in diversifying, creating quality jobs, and ultimately generating a sustainable tourism industry and island home. Thank you for allowing me to share my Manawa with you this morning. Have a great time.
Mahalo for sharing your insights with us. It's critical social issues and public safety, infrastructure, so many different things. That delicate balance of sustaining our economic base and protecting our natural resources while at the same time nurturing our people and protecting our communities. Thank you very much. Before we call up our final speaker for the morning, I have a challenge for you, because you folks have been sitting down a long time. I want you to do one thing first, to stand, and then we're going to have to sit right back down and stand. We're going to do 2 arm exercises together. So stand real quick, stretch a little bit. First arm exercise, stretch way up high. Second arm exercise, bring it all the way around. And say aloha to somebody next to you, shake hands and say, greet one person. Aloha. Okay, pause it now. Good job. Those are follow instructions. Awesome. Please when you're ready. It is now my honor to call up our CEO and Executive Director of NACO, the only association representing African. Well, that's what's that? You lost
Okay, everybody, they made a mistake. You're not supposed to be standing up and enjoying yourself. Sit down, let's get back to work. Okay, we're behind schedule. So, all I can tell you of the previous speaker, in my experience, it was either one of the longest University of Hawaii TIM lectures, or that's one of the things you're going to hear about a lot once the calendar turns 2020. Mr. Matt Chase.
Good morning. Morning. Aloha. Aloha. So those of you that know Councilmember O'Connell, when he said let's get back to work, you know he wasn't joking. So I do want to thank the council member. He's a past president of the National Association of Counties, and I'm very honored to have worked with Ricky, and he certainly made us work, and it was a great thing. So I also want to recognize our other board members, Dr. Tim Richards from the Big Island, who sits on the NACO board, as well as Council Member Anderson from City County of Honolulu. And want to recognize the president of this group, Council Chair Poindexter, or President Poindexter, and the Maui County Chair of his kingdom. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. We're trying to get you back on the schedule. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on in Washington, D.C. and how it impacts the state of Hawaii and the individual counties. And so being out here in the Pacific, you probably often wonder what is the direct connection, and hopefully I'll summarize that. I also want to recognize President Cox, Supervisor Cox from San Diego, who you heard from. He's a great national leader and very passionate about all the issues that we'll talk about. So thank you, President Cox. So when you watch the national news, you probably think nothing is happening in Washington except for investigations. And well, there's truth to that. There's a lot of media attention on the investigations and subpoenas, the immigration fights. But below the surface, below that reality TV, the entertainment value of Inside the Beltway, there's a tremendous amount of policy work going on that impacts all of your residents and your communities in your county governments directly. And I just want to start with the big picture. Right now, the federal government is running annual deficits of about $1 trillion a year. In 2015, we were able to get our annual deficits down to about $425 billion, which is something actually to celebrate. And since 2015, we have since doubled those annual deficits with mounting debt over $22 trillion. What's distressing about that is that we're having these record deficits at a time when the national economy is humming along. Your state, I was reading this morning, has 2.8% unemployment. Obviously, you have huge unemployment or underemployment, and your wages aren't as high as they need to be. But nationally, when you look at 3.8% unemployment with record deficits, that's actually a recipe for disaster. And why I say that is interest rates are low, unemployment is low. That's all right. I know who I am. But when the next recession comes, and it inevitably will, the Federal Reserve won't be able to lower interest rates much more. The federal government won't have as much fiscal policy to pump money into the economy as we did in 2008. And so this is something we as a country really need to be paying attention to. How can we handle $22 trillion in debt, an annual deficit of $1 trillion, and yet we're going to be out of tools? But what is happening politically is there really aren't incentives for Republicans and Democrats to come together to fix some of these huge issues and to set good policy. And the reason is both political parties think they're winning. On the Republican side, they get to appoint dozens of new judges every day. They've really swung the balance of power in the U.S. Supreme Court to their side. They're rolling back a lot of President Obama's regulations at record speed. They won the U.S. Senate in the last election. And again, if you look at the economy, it's doing as well at the national level as any time we've seen. On the Democratic side, the Democrats think they're winning. They won back the House, they have an energized base, they're dominating in the polls with women, and increasingly with independents. So what are the incentives in our political system for these two parties to come together? When you get to the county level, we would argue we need a strong federal partner. We're dealing with a national opioid epidemic, which is actually now fentanyl, one of the most deadly substances on earth. All it takes is a pin drop. Last year we had more fatalities from substance abuse than highway car accidents. For the first time now, more Americans die from substance abuse overdose than highway fatalities. We're seeing an increase in mental health, and we're using our county jails as the primary hospitals and treatment centers. We just don't think that's right. Congress also is dealing with infrastructure. In an island out here in Hawaii, infrastructure is key, not just roads and transit, but also aviation and water infrastructure. And we're really battling with the Federal Communications Commission over 5G, which is the new advanced broadband, where the federal government is trying to preempt any local oversight of the deployment of these advanced telecommunications. where industry can just put these cells wherever they want, including on county-owned infrastructure where you wouldn't have any right to charge them or to set parameters on where they can and cannot put their telecommunications equipment. No organization is for broadband expansion more than NATO. As President Cox mentioned, we built an app to actually create our own crowdsourced maps so that we can show Congress and the White House that much of America still doesn't have access to high-speed, affordable internet. And yet they want industry to be able to provide it anywhere. And what's going to happen with the 5G is they'll just limit it to the cities. We've seen it over and over again. So we have a full plate. You also have, in the infrastructure space, I would pay attention to the Highway Trust Fund, which used to be a user-funded pot of money to fund not only roads and bridges, but transit and also transportation enhancements like bike paths. Unfortunately, a couple of years ago, Congress made a decision to spend down the trust fund at the same time that vehicles became more efficient. And so just in the recent years, Congress has had to provide $140 billion in general funds to balance the Highway Trust Fund. This used to be a program that was paid for through the federal gas tax and was always self-sufficient. But it's no longer a user-based trust fund. Now we rely on the federal government. And so this latest bill called the FAST Act, which again funds roads, bridges, transit, and transportation enhancements, we needed to put $70 billion in general funds just to cover the shortfall. And in the next couple of years, because of the efficiency of vehicles, we'll need about $23 billion a year in federal funds just to balance that Highway Trust Fund. So as we talk about the importance of infrastructure, we can't even pay for what we have today, let alone enhancements for the future. So again, Congress would have to come up with over $230 billion in the next 10 years to balance the Highway Trust Fund. That's just an exorbitant amount of money. So again, we have a full plate. And the last two things I would like to touch on is disasters. And I noticed this event is focusing a lot on climate change and resilience. The state of Hawaii just got a new allocation of funds for Hawaii, for Oahu, and the Big Island. Congress has appropriated about $800 million in the last year for the state of Hawaii for disaster aid. What has happened nationally is last year we had 25% of all county governments in the United States, over 830 counties, having FEMA federal declared disaster. 25% of all county governments in the United States had a natural disaster that rose to the level of a federal designation. Congress appropriated over $140 billion in federal aid for local communities, a record sum. So if I asked you last year, do you think the federal government spent more than they did on Katrina for New Orleans, or Hurricane Rita for the Houston area, or Superstorm Sandy that hit New York City? Most folks would say no way. And yet we almost spent double that amount on disasters last year. And you really don't see it in the national media coverage. And why it's really important is that Congress is saying we can't sustain this. We are going to be looking for new policy so that state and local governments have to pay more for disasters moving forward. They haven't reached a compromise yet. They don't have a clear plan of how they're going to do it. But what they're telling us is communities need to really become more disaster ready. We need to focus on mitigation because we can't expect the federal government to keep bailing out local communities. And so for counties, that's just a key issue. Last year, we were able to get a provision passed into law that FEMA can no longer come back and claw back money. What was happening is after counties would receive federal aid, after 7 years, they would have the money audited, they would close out their accounts, and then FEMA would come back and try and go through their records and actually claw back money. In some cases, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars per county. And so we were able to get Congress to put provision in there that once the Inspector General has audited your books, that you've closed it out, that FEMA can't come back and claw that back. But I would really encourage you that as you use the federal resources, that you really pay attention to how you're using it, you make sure it's appropriate, you document it, because they are being very aggressive in how they handle it. And then the last thing I just want to wrap up with, to get you back on schedule, is NACO launched a great online leadership program called the High Performance Leadership Academy. And our board of directors, led by President Cox and folks like Councilmember Okama and Richards, we set aside money in our budget to provide scholarships to every county in the country to go through this 12-week online leadership program. You do it right from your desktop. And what is great about it is you learn from the best leaders in the country. The program actually was founded by General Colin Powell, and he is one of the trainers. And it really teaches you how to survive in today's challenging world, how you deal with conflict, how you lead with positive change. In addition to the general leadership program, we have one on cybersecurity and how can counties become more cyber resilient. So I would encourage you to check it out. We have scholarships available if your counties haven't taken advantage of it. And again, mahalo, just thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Any time for questions, or we need to move on? Okay, we will move on. Thank you very much.